Relax and listen to the voice. Hello everyone. In this episode, we're going to be discussing SCPs. These are some of the most mysterious entities known to mankind. According to the archived logs of the SCP Foundation, there are many different types of SCPs. To begin, we will only be discussing a select few objects from the primary classes, which are objects classified as Safe, Euclid, and Keter. Objects classified as safe are fairly easy to contain and tend to be less dangerous than their Euclid and Keter counterparts. That does not mean, however, that safe objects are entirely safe. It just means that whatever danger they pose can be more easily prevented and contained. But anyone who comes into contact with these objects should still exercise caution. The Euclid class are less predictable than safe objects. Euclid objects tend to be harder to contain and deadlier. However, following proper containment procedures usually means that these objects don't pose too much of a threat, so long as you're careful. They'll still probably try, and may even succeed in killing you, though. The Keter class are unpredictable and extremely difficult to contain. Keter objects are also the most typically dangerous of this primary class. In fact, in the event of a containment breach, if the Keter object in question is dangerous enough, conducting a nuclear strike against its entire containment facility to neutralize it is not beyond the realm of possibility. And here's a special note of interest. It is possible for objects that were originally classified as one class to be ranked up or down, depending on their behavior. We can take SCP-1048 as an example. This SCP was moved from safe classification to Keter after a certain incident occurred. If any of these SCPs seem interesting to you, we do urge that you do some research on your own. Scour the internet, find some artwork, see if you can find any additional information or stories about the particular SCPs. And we urge you to check out and support the SCP Foundation, not only for keeping us all safe from these objects, but also for providing us with so much information on each and every one of them. The majority of the information that we will relay to you has been taken from the SCP Foundation. And with that introduction out of the way, dearest listeners, here we go. SCP-106 The Old Man, Keter class. SCP-106 appears to be an elderly humanoid with a general appearance of advanced decomposition. This appearance may vary, but the rotting quality is observed in all forms. SCP-106 is not exceptionally agile and will remain motionless for days at a time, waiting for prey. SCP-106 is also capable of scaling any vertical surface and can remain suspended upside down indefinitely. When attacking, SCP-106 will attempt to incapacitate prey by damaging major organs, muscle groups, or tendons, and then pull disabled prey into its pocket dimension. SCP-106 appears to prefer human prey items in the 10 to 25 years of age bracket. SCP-106 causes a corrosion effect in all solid matter that it touches, engaging a physical breakdown in materials several seconds after contact. This is observed as rusting, rotting, and cracking of materials, as well as the creation of a black, mucus-like substance similar to the material that is coating SCP-106. This effect is particularly detrimental to living tissue and is assumed to be a pre-digestion action. Corrosion continues for 6 hours after contact, after which the corrosion effect appears to simply burn out. SCP-106 is capable of passing through solid matter, leaving behind a large patch of its corrosive mucus. SCP-106 is able to vanish inside of solid matter, entering what is assumed to be a form of a pocket dimension. SCP-106 is then able to exit this dimension from any point connected to the initial entry point. Examples of this are entering the inner wall of a room and then exiting the outer wall, or entering a wall and exiting from the ceiling. It is unknown if this is the point of origin for SCP-106 or a simple layer created by SCP-106. Limited observation of this pocket dimension has shown it to be comprised mostly of halls and rooms with
redacted
entry. This activity can continue for days, with some subjected individuals being released for the express purpose of hunting, recapture, or
content unavailable.
Notes on behavior. SCP-106 appears to go through long periods of dormancy in which it will remain completely motionless for up to 3 months. The cause for this is unknown. However, it has been shown that this appears to be used as a lulling tactic. SCP-106 will emerge from this state in a very agitated state and will attack and abduct staff and cause gross damage to its containment cell and the site at large. SCP-106 appears to hunt and attack based on desire, not hunger. SCP-106 will attack and collect multiple prey items during a hunting behavior event, keeping many of those alive in the pocket dimension for extended periods of time. This SCP has no determinable limit and appears to collect a given random number of prey items during an event. The inner dimension accessed by SCP-106 appears to be only accessible by SCP-106. Recording and transmission devices have been shown to still operate inside this dimension, though recordings and transmissions are extremely degraded. It also appears that SCP-106 will play with their captured prey and appears to have full control of time, space, and perception inside of this pocket dimension. Containment procedures. No physical interaction with SCP-106 is allowed at any time. All physical interaction must be approved by no less than a 2/3 vote from O5 Command. Any such interaction must be undertaken in AR-2 maximum security sites after a general non-essential staff evacuation. All staff, research, security, Class D, and etc. are to remain at least 60 meters away from the containment cell at all times, except in the event of breach events. SCP-106 is to be contained in a sealed container comprised of lead-lined steel. The container will be sealed within 40 layers of identical material, each layer separated by no less than 36 centimeters of empty space. Support struts between layers are to be randomly spaced. The container is to remain suspended no less than 60 centimeters from any surface by ELO, IID electromagnetic supports. Any corrosion observed on any containment cell surfaces, staff members, or other site locations within 200 meters of SCP-106 are to be reported to site security immediately. Any objects or personnel lost to SCP-106 are to be deemed missing or killed in action. No recovery attempts are to be made under any circumstances. SCP-173 The Sculpture, Euclid Class. Moved to Site 19 in 1993, the origin of the sculpture is as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move while within a direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter the container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. There has been noted to be a reddish-brown substance on the floor, which is a combination of feces and blood. The origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. Containment procedures. Item SCP-173 is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be re-locked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have been vacated and the container has been noted as being re-locked. SCP-087 The Stairwell, Euclid Class. SCP-087 is an unlit platform staircase. Stairs descend on a 38-degree angle for 13 steps before reaching a semicircular platform of approximately 3 meters in diameter. Descent direction rotates 180 degrees at each platform. The design of SCP-087 limits subjects to a visual range of approximately 1.5 flights. A light source is required for any subjects exploring SCP-087, as there are no lighting fixtures or windows present. Lighting sources brighter than 75 watts have shown to be ineffective, as SCP-087 seems to absorb the excess light. Subject reports and audio recordings confirm the distressed vocalizations from what is presumed to be a child between the ages of
Information missing.
and
Redacted.
the source of the distress calls is estimated to be located approximately 200 meters below the initial platform. However, any attempts to descend the staircase have failed to bring subjects closer to the source. The depth of the descent, calculated from Exploration 4, the longest exploration so far, is shown to be far beyond both the possible structure of both the building and geological surroundings. At this time, it is unknown if SCP-087 has an endpoint. SCP-087 has undergone 4 video-recorded explorations by Class D personnel. Each subject conducting an exploration has encountered SCP-087-1, which appears as a face with no visible pupils, nostrils, or mouth. The nature of SCP-087-1 is entirely unclear, but it has been determined that it is not the source of the bleeding. Subjects exhibit feelings of intense paranoia and fear when faced with SCP-087-1, but it is undetermined whether said feelings are abnormal or simply natural reactions. Addendum. Over a period of 2 weeks following Exploration 4, several members of the staff and students from the
Information missing.
campus reported knocking at a variable rate of 1 to 2 seconds per knock coming from the interior of SCP-087. The door leading to SCP-087 has been fitted with 6 centimeter thick industrial padding. Since this implementation, all reports of knocking have ceased. Containment procedures. SCP-087 is located on the campus of
Content unavailable.
The doorway leading to SCP-087 is constructed of reinforced steel with an electro-release lock mechanism. It has been disguised to resemble a janitorial closet consistent with the design of the building. The lock mechanism on the doorknob will not release unless
Redacted.
volts are applied in conjunction with the counterclockwise rotation of the key. The inside of the door is lined with 6 centimeters of industrial foam padding. Due to the results of the final exploration contained in Document 087-4, no personnel are permitted access to SCP-087. SCP-939 with many voices. Keter class. SCP-939 are endothermic, pack-based predators which display atrophy of various systems similar to troglodytic organisms. The skins of SCP-939 are highly permeable to moisture and translucent red, owing to a compound chemically similar to hemoglobin. SCP-939 average 2.2 meters tall, standing upright, and weigh an average of 250 kilograms, though weight is highly variable. Each of their 4 limbs end in 3-fingered claws with a 4th opposable digit, and are covered in seta, which considerably augments climbing abilities. Their heads are elongated, devoid of even vestigial eyes or eye sockets, and contain no brain casing. The jaws of SCP-939 are lined with red, faintly luminescent, fang-like teeth, similar to those belonging to specimens of the genus Cholidius, up to 6 centimeters in length, and encircled by heat-sensitive pit organs. Eye spots, sensitive to light and dark, run the length of their spine dorsal ridges. These spines may be up to 16 centimeters long and are believed to be sensitive to changes in air pressure and flow. SCP-939 does not possess many vital organ systems. Central and peripheral nervous systems, circulatory system, and digestive tract are all seen to be absent. SCP-939's respiratory system is atrophied and serves no apparent purpose beyond spreading AMN C227. SCP-939 have no apparent physiological need to feed, nor any way to digest consumed tissues. Ingested material typically accumulates in the respiratory system of SCP-939 and is regurgitated once the amount is sufficient to markedly inhibit its function. Despite the absence of many vital organ systems, SCP-939 are capable of bearing live young. SCP-939's primary method of luring prey is the imitation of human speech in the voices of prior victims, though imitation of other species and active nocturnal hunts have also been documented. The vocalizations of this SCP often imply significant distress. Whether SCP-939 understands their vocalizations or are simply repeating previously heard phrases is the subject of ongoing study. How SCP-939 acquires voices is not currently understood. Specimens have been documented imitating victims despite never hearing the victim speak. Analysis of SCP-939 vocalizations cannot distinguish between SCP-939 and samples of known victims' voices. The use of biometric voice recognition security or any identification systems at any installation housing SCP-939 is strongly discouraged for this reason. Prey is usually killed with a single bite to the cranium or neck. Bite forces of SCP-939 have been measured in excess of 35 MPa. SCP-939 exhale minute traces of an aerosolized Class C amnestic designated AMN-C227. AMN-C227 causes temporary anterograde amnesia, inhibiting memory formation for the duration of exposure, plus an average of up to 30 minutes. It is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. In well-vented or open-air environments, risk of exposure to ECT-50 is greatly reduced, but not negligible. AMN-C227 is typically undetectable in the bloodstream 60 minutes following cessation of exposure. Reported sensations of disorientation and mild hallucinations immediately following removal from environments saturated with the agent are similar to the effects of recreational use of numerous psychoactive substances and easily mistaken as such. Containment procedures. SCP-939, SCP-9391, 9393, 93919, 93953, 93989, 93996, 93998, 93999, and 939109 are kept in Cell 1163A or Cell 1163B, which is a 10 meter by 10 meter by 3 meter containment chamber within Armed Biocontainment Area 14. Both cells are environmentally regulated and negatively pressurized, with walls constructed of reinforced concrete. Access to these cells is regulated by an outer decontamination chamber and inner, gas-tight, steel security doors. Observation windows are constructed of laminated ballistics glass, 10 centimeters in thickness, protected by an electrified mesh. Humidity is maintained at 100% at a temperature of 16 degrees Celsius. Specimens are monitored at all times via infrared cameras. Level 4 authorization is required to access SCP-939, their containment areas, or the observation chambers. SCP-939-101 is dismembered and stored in cryogenic preservation tanks 939-101A to 939-101M within Bioresearch Area 12. Access to SCP-939-101 requires authorization by 2 Clearance Level 3 personnel, one of which must be present for all research and testing. The contents of only one 939-101 tank may be accessed at any given time. Core temperature of SCP-939-101 tissues must be monitored while removed from cryogenic preservation. Should core temperatures exceed 10 degrees Celsius, tissues are to be returned to their corresponding tank, and all testing suspended for a period of 72 hours. Barring core temperatures exceeding 10 degrees Celsius, research of SCP-939-101 tissues may continue as long as its ramblings and pleas for release may be tolerated. Containment cells should be cleaned bi-weekly. While this takes place, SCP-939 specimens will be transferred to the adjacent cell. During this time, the cell's doors and observation window must be inspected for damage and repaired or replaced accordingly. Heavy sedation of all SCP-939 is required before any interaction, including transfer between cells and experimentation, may take place. Level C hazmat gear is to be worn by personnel during interactions with SCP-939 specimens and in any areas which SCP-939 have been known to inhabit. Afterward, standard decontamination procedures are to be observed by all personnel involved to ensure no secondary spread of amnestic agents occur. Following Incident ABC A14-9393, all non-Class D personnel interacting with SCP-939 for any length of time are required to wear 2 waterproof electronic pulse monitors for the duration of such interaction. These pulse monitors will transmit to a wireless monitoring system independent of a facility's main power grid, with at least 1 backup power system on standby. Should both an individual's pulse monitors flatline or otherwise malfunction, the wearer will be presumed dead. Personnel will then be instructed to disregard all of the wearer's subsequent vocalizations, and a breach of containment will be declared automatically. Security personnel responding to such a breach are likewise required to wear these pulse monitors. Additionally, all live SCP-939 must be implanted with subdermal tracking devices upon capture. SCP-096 The Shy Guy, Euclid Class. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. The subject shows very little muscle mass, with preliminary analysis of body mass suggesting mild malnutrition. Arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of the subject's body, with an approximate length of 1.5 meters each. The skin is mostly devoid of pigmentation, with no sign of any body hair. SCP-096's jaws can open up to 4 times the norm of an average human. Other facial features remain similar to an average human, with the exception of the eyes, which are also devoid of pigmentation. It is not yet known whether SCP-096 is blind or not. It shows no signs of any higher brain functions and is not considered to be sapient. SCP-096 is normally extremely docile, with pressure sensors inside of its cell indicating that it spends most of the day pacing by the eastern wall. However, when someone views SCP-096's face, whether it be directly, via video recording, or even by photograph, it will enter a stage of considerable emotional distress. SCP-096 will cover its face with its hands and begin screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after the first viewing, SCP-096 will begin running to the person who has viewed its face, who will, from this point on, be referred to as SCP-096-1. Documented speeds have varied from 35 kilometers per hour to
Content unavailable.
kilometers per hour, and seems to depend on distance from SCP-0961. At this point, no known material or method can impede SCP-096's progress. The actual position of SCP-0961 does not seem to affect SCP-096's response. It seems to have an innate sense of SCP-096-1's location. This reaction does not seem to occur when viewing artistic depictions of SCP-096. Upon arriving at SCP-096-1's location, SCP-096 will proceed to kill and
Redacted.
SCP-096-1. 100% of cases have left no traces of SCP-096-1. SCP-096 will then sit down for several minutes before regaining its composure and becoming docile once again. It will then attempt to make its way back to its natural habitat.
Information missing.
Due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction, including breach of Foundation secrecy and the potential of large civilian loss of life, retrieval of subject should be considered alpha priority. Dr.
Redacted.
who has also petitioned for immediate termination of SCP-096, informs us that the termination order has been approved and is to be carried out by Dr.
Redacted.
on the date of
Redacted.
Containment Procedures. SCP-096 is to be contained in its cell, a 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter airtight steel cube at all times. Weekly checks for any cracks or holes are mandatory. There are to be absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside of SCP-096's cell. Security personnel will use pre-installed pressure sensors and laser detectors to ensure SCP-096's presence inside of the cell. Any and all photos, videos, or recordings of SCP-096's likeness are strictly forbidden without approval from Dr.
Redacted.
and 05
Redacted.
SCP-1981. Ronald Reagan cut up while talking. Safe Class. SCP-1981 is a standard Betamax cassette tape. Ronald Reagan cut up while talking has been handwritten on the adhesive sticker in felt-tip pen. Laboratory analysis indicates that SCP-1981 is made of ordinary material, and serial numbers correspond with home cassette tapes produced in September of 1980. SCP-1981 was initially encountered by a filing clerk in the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in 1991, who upon watching it alerted the police with the intent to find the tape's creator in order to press obscenity charges. A very low-level police investigation was conducted, at which point the Foundation was alerted and secured SCP-1981. Class A amnestics were administered before
Information missing.
could be notified. Further investigations of the library's records by Foundation personnel failed to yield any leads on SCP-1981's origin. SCP-1981 appears to be a home video recording of former United States President Ronald Reagan delivering his Evil Empire speech to the National Association of Evangelicals at Sheraton Twin Towers Hotel in Orlando, Florida on March 8th of 1983. However, at the 1 minute and 10-second mark, the speech begins to deviate heavily, eventually coming to resemble no known speech ever made by Ronald Reagan. Beginning at approximately 5 minutes, Multiple incisions, lacerations, and penetration wounds can be seen slowly inflicted, though no corresponding source of these wounds is visible. Despite suffering bodily harm that would likely incapacitate an ordinary person, Reagan will continue to deliver his speech until either his vocal cords are severed or the tape degrades to static at 22 minutes and 34 seconds. Upon rewinding SCP-1981 and initiating playback, Reagan will deliver an entirely new speech, often radically different from the ones previously observed. Topics have included torture, child
Information missing.
and ritual sacrifice. Trauma inflicted upon Reagan also appears to be divergent, with impalement, genital mutilation, and
Information missing.
having been also observed. In roughly 1 in 7 viewings of SCP-1981, a figure clothed in black robes with a conical hood will have replaced a random member of Reagan's press detail, henceforth referred to as SCP-1981-1. The significance of the appearance of SCP-1981-1 is currently unknown. The speeches delivered by Reagan are mostly incoherent, lacking any sort of underlying thematic structure, and largely being composed of nonsensical anecdotes and parables. However, occasionally, references are made to future events that Reagan could not have possibly known about or predicted, such as the September 11 terrorist attacks, the result of the 2008 Russian election, and
Content unavailable.
for this reason, rigorous time and effort has been devoted to recording the speech delivered on each playback. Attempts to replicate SCP-1981 onto a similar Betamax tape have met with failure. However, cameras used to record the television SCP-1981 is broadcasted on have succeeded in capturing individual playbacks. Any observations performed on SCP-1981 must be recorded on the camcorder provided and delivered for subsequent review to Dr.
Redacted.
Project Supervisor. Years of natural magnetic interference have severely degraded SCP-1981's signal quality, making it even more difficult to sift meaningful information from playbacks. Additionally, the gruesome nature of the mutilations performed upon Reagan has been described as extremely disturbing, and for this reason, it is recommended that any personnel feeling squeamish or ill after playback visit the on-site psychiatry facility for a Level 3 evaluation. As Ronald Reagan was alive at the time of SCP-1981's containment, a surveillance net was deployed to establish any relation between him and SCP-1981. No known connection was developed, though Reagan would frequently complain about nightmares before his mental state degenerated due to Alzheimer's. Containment Procedures. SCP-1981 is to be kept inside a secure video storage unit at the Media Archive of Site.
Information missing.
When in use, SCP-1981 should not be removed from its casing or exposed to any strong magnetic sources. A Betamax home video system and an analog television has been provided in Observation Theater 2 at Site,
Information missing.
as well as video equipment to be used in recording viewings of SCP-1981. SCP-428 The Crowd, Euclid Class. SCP-428 is, in appearance, a crowd of huddled human beings. As of 12/20/19,
Content unavailable.
it consists of 14 people. While huddled in a circle, SCP-428 is to be considered in a dormant state. In this state, the crowd moves with a gentle sway and can be heard audibly mumbling. Upon further inspection, the biological internals, organs, bones, muscles, and fluids, leaving only the skin, have been removed from each individual and replaced with an unidentified material that attaches to a central amorphous mass in the middle of the crowd via lengths of flesh similar to umbilical cords. The crowd will not move away from this mass unless a person comes within 2 meters of the central mass. At this point, the crowd will move into its hostile state. The people of SCP-428 closest to the person will attempt to grab and pull them into the middle of the crowd. After contact is made for more than 10 seconds, the person will then become a new member of SCP-428. Their internal structures will be removed and replaced with the same material as the other members. Should the potential victim escape, SCP-428 will actively seek them or another potential victim. It will attempt to absorb any and all human life within its immediate vicinity. When all human life has been absorbed and they have become members of the crowd, it will once again return to its dormant state. If SCP-428 does not absorb a human being after a maximum of 1 month, it will again actively seek them out. It will do this using a variety of different methods. This includes using acquired skills previously known by people that it has absorbed. It is also known to use psychological tactics to lure people into its grasping distance, as discussed in Addendum 428A. Any wounds inflicted upon SCP-428's crowd heal at an accelerated rate and do not hinder movement. SCP-428 has been proven to be highly resilient. For instance, a bullet to the leg of a member of the crowd will become lodged but will not affect the individual's movement, and beyond the substance seeping through, the hole will close up within a few days. However, wounds inflicted upon SCP-428's central mass will cause a great deal of pain to the crowd. This will cause the crowd to collapse in apparent agony, and SCP-428 will retreat from the cause of the injury, using the crowd to protect itself. This has since been used to herd SCP-428 back into containment. Should a connection between SCP-428 and a member of the crowd be severed, it will excrete the substance within it through all of its natural orifices. A sample of this secretion is currently being studied, and the remains have been incinerated. SCP-428 has a hive mind. It therefore does not have the hindrance of movement that would be expected of a sizable crowd. It is able to move a large distance in a relatively short amount of time. It is also only limited by the slowest member of the crowd at their fastest running speed. SCP-428 appears to maintain some of the memories, skills, and talents of the people it has absorbed, and is willing to use these skills to gain further members. Addendum 428A. On the date of
Content unavailable.
before the current containment procedures, SCP-428 managed to pick the lock of its cell using a hairpin and belt buckle from members of the crowd. It then positioned a female of the group slumped in front of the door, sobbing loudly. Researcher,
Redacted.
who was unaware of SCP-428's properties, approached the woman and was abruptly grabbed by the rest of the group. SCP-428 proceeded to move through the facility using Researcher
Redacted.
as a frontman, resulting in
Content unavailable.
casualties before the containment breach was alerted and SCP-428 was recontained. After this event, one researcher noted this written comment: "People, these casualties are gone. They are now SCP-428. No matter what it might say or do, they are not your work colleagues nor your friends anymore. Remember this. It may save your life." Containment Procedures. SCP-428 is to be contained in a 5 meter by 5 meter by 5 meter cell. The containment walls are to be electrified with 30,000 volts. Entrance to the cell is via a corridor airlock, and access to SCP-428 is restricted to Level 3 researchers and below, while escorted by 2 armed guards. Personnel are to keep 2 meters minimum away from SCP-428 at all times. When not under research, 2 armed guards are to be on duty around SCP-428 at all times. Due to SCP-428's effects, all D-Class personnel are to be screened for low IQs and skills that are deemed non-threatening to Foundation security or potential escape attempts. A single D-Class personnel due for termination is to be offered once per month to keep SCP-428 satisfied. However, this will result in the need for an increase in containment space or for a solution to keep SCP-428 neutralized in the future. SCP-610 The Flesh That Hates. Keter Class. Initial reports of SCP-610 came direct from the Russian government through undisclosable channels. These reports consisted primarily of disappearances of farmers in the region and were not considered until the local police, followed by the regional police, and finally a government dispatched agent, all failed to report in within a 72-hour period. A small military contingent was dispatched to the area and quickly withdrew, at which point the Foundation was contacted to investigate. The area SCP-610 affects is close to Lake Baikal in southern Siberia. Areas of known infection are tracked and marked on a map. Containment perimeters are marked in blue surrounding these infection areas, and as of present, no further locations have been identified. Incursions into the perimeter must be reported prior to conducting, confirmed during exploration, and debriefed on immediately following return. SCP-610 appears to be a contagious skin disease at first, with symptoms including rash, itching, and increased skin sensitivity. Within 3 hours, the disease will cause blemishes resembling heavy scar tissue to form in the chest and arm areas, spreading to the legs and back within an additional hour, and then consuming the victim completely within 5 hours. Exposure to higher temperatures vastly decreases the time for the contagion to spread, and complete infections have been recorded occurring in as little as 5 minutes. After the completion of the infection occurs, the victim's life functions will cease for approximately 3 minutes, after which time they will restart at 2 to 3 times the activity rate of a normal human. Following this, the scar tissue on the victims will start to move of its own accord and grow at a rapid rate. Normal human features then start to disappear at this point under the infection, and the path of mutation appears to be largely random. Subjects observed in this stage of infection have been recorded as growing 3 or more limbs of a type such as arms or legs. The head may become misshapen and elongate or widen out, and parts of the subject may split open from which additional branches of flesh will grow. The duration of this stage of infection is unknown, and not all subjects appear to progress to the later stages. Under unknown conditions, an infected individual will cease moving and place itself in a location it deems suitable, where it then roots itself. The fleshy growth on the victims will then begin to spread itself across all surrounding objects and consume them. Such objects do not spread the infection as living creatures do, however, and the effect of prolonged contact with these objects is recorded later in this document. It is assumed that the behavior is to create an area hospitable to continued growth of the other infected. Observation of life infected by SCP-610 by staff is impossible. Those infected with the disease immediately seek out aid as natural human impulse, resulting in unintended infections. Those infected past the scar tissue phase actively and aggressively attempt to infect anyone approaching them within an undefined area. It has been established that should an infected be capable of sight and observe an uninfected, it will proceed toward them. If the infected has lost the ability of sight, a range of approximately 30 meters is generally considered safe. Observation of SCP-610 infected settlements has been established using artificial methods such as remote robots and drone systems. The data returned from these observations, coupled with the openly aggressive nature of the infected to attempt to spread SCP-610, has resulted in the Keter classification. However, so long as nothing is allowed to enter or leave the infected areas, it is considered a neutralized threat. Of concern are the cavernous areas beneath the infected settlements that were discovered during the exploration, and attempts to get research personnel into these areas are currently underway. Field Logs SCP-610-L1. A small remote-controlled rover is sent to Site A to locate missing personnel. SCP-610-L2. An infected Class D personnel is sent into Site C with video equipment. SCP-610-L3. Initial discovery of the tunnel entrances at Site A. SCP-610-L4. Conducting unmanned exploration of the Site A tunnels. SCP-610-L5. Conducting manned exploration of the Site A tunnels. SCP-610-L6.
Redacted.
The following field report is for Class A or higher personnel only. Unauthorized viewing, reading, or recording of this file is strictly prohibited and will be considered a violation of Foundation contracts and a breach of international law. Containment procedures. Due to the vast area of infection that SCP-610 covers, containment has been designated impossible. Isolation of the area has proven far more effective, and permission has been granted by the Russian government to establish a perimeter to keep people out of these areas under the guise of military operations. Should any organism displaying traits consistent with SCP-610 be sighted near this perimeter, then the established protocol requires it to be engaged at range with small arms until immobile, and then dispatched using incendiary weapons and munitions from as great of a distance as possible. Any living thing coming into physical contact with an organism infected with SCP-610 is considered expendable and is to be immediately terminated and incinerated. Any persons coming within 3 meters of SCP-610 infected life are to immediately withdraw from the area, be isolated from the rest of their team, and subjected to medical examination using only remote techniques to determine if infection has occurred, at which point appropriate steps would be taken based on that determination. At present, the known infection vectors for SCP-610 spread seem to be focused on physical contact. Drone movements within heavily infected areas have returned air samples containing minute particulate, which when exposed to organic compounds will result in the spread of SCP-610. The results of these particular tests have revealed that most require several days to manifest, if at all, with the exception of direct contact with exposed lung and liver tissue. These particular tests show a rapid rate of growth which requires incineration of the testing environment no more than 24 hours after initial exposure, with even a 2-hour mishap potentially risking a compromised facility event. Given that this kind of rapid growth only occurs in organic material existing outside of the human body, this form of infection is currently considered a minor concern. These peculiarities have given rise to a series of questions regarding the possible origin of the infection in conjunction with the failed
Content unavailable.
containment protocol remains at a scorched earth policy at this time, and no concern for transmission via water or air at infection parameters exist, barring situational changes in the field. SCP-401, a palm tree, Euclid class. This description also contains declassified experiment logs. Description: SCP-401 was discovered near the French city of
Redacted.
when agents were called and responded to reports of the ground bleeding. When led to the site, investigators found a human mouth embedded in the soil, licking away the remaining blood with a long, prehensile tongue. It was not until a week later that agents realized that the mouth was part of the root structure of what first appeared to be a 40-meter-tall, dead eucalyptus tree with branches shaped like multi-jointed human arms. The white color of the trunk, originally suggesting that the tree was dead, was found to be because the bark was made of human bone tissue. It was given SCP status and excavated from the area to be transported to site.
Information missing.
SCP-401 resembles an ordinary tree in form and function. However, human physiology is substituted for plant biology in the fulfillment of necessary processes. The trunk is supported by multiple vertebral columns woven together by tendons and muscles and coated by a layer of rough bone tissue also held together by flexible tendons. As one goes higher, the trunk will split repeatedly until there is a single vertebral column supporting the rest of the structure. At the base of the trunk are multiple human hearts, which pump blood and nutrients through the roots and branches. The roots themselves are esophagi, protected by a layer of cartilage reminiscent of the trachea. At the end of each root is a fully formed upper and lower jaw, complete with muscles, lips, and the prehensile tongue first witnessed by agents in the field. The tongue seems to be used as a digging implement and as a snare for food, ranging from burrowing animals to edible fungi and plants. All of these roots ultimately lead to a single stomach. This, along with a fully functional, though unusually long intestinal tract, work to absorb ingested nutrients. Solid waste is eliminated through a sphincteral orifice on the side of the trunk. No roots are found in the area immediately beneath this spot. The branches, as initial observation suggested, are human arms. They extrude themselves from the bony trunk, but have no bark themselves. Some will split at the elbow, so that they may have 2 or even 3 forearms. The palms of its hands all face upward, and the tip of each finger has a human eye growing from it. The iris of each one of these eyes is hazel in color. Dissection of the eyes shows that they are all myopic, though they do react to light stimuli as any normal eye would. Though the chemical process is not yet understood, the retinas carry on a form of photosynthesis which transforms carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and glucose. It is generally agreed that the eyes are myopic in order to prevent excessive damage to the retina from direct sunlight. Chemical analysis of the lungs show that there is a higher oxygen content when SCP-401 exhales than when it inhales. During spring, SCP-401 will go into bloom. Though it is genetically a human male, it will grow female sexual organs. The vaginal openings are located on the palms of its hands, with canals extending 18 centimeters along each wrist to a bulge which contains a fully formed uterus and ovaries. 5 days after the formation of the organs, menstruation occurs, at which point male sexual organs begin to develop in their place over a period of 10 days. Once fully formed, they will remain for 1 day before they are shed and eaten by the roots. During this phase, SCP-401 will attack human females for the purpose of reproduction. Experiment Log 4011. The fact that SCP-401 is genetically human, combined with the
redacted
exhibited against women during its male phase, suggests that it may be compatible with human beings. A number of breeding experiments have been proposed to test this. Date.
Information missing.
Subject. Female D-Class Personnel, D-2055. Procedure. D-0255 was artificially inseminated with material produced by SCP-401 during its male phase. The product of this insemination was allowed to gestate. Details. 9 months after conception, D-2055 gave birth to a normal human male infant. Though healthy and lacking in any unusual physiology, the child has been found to suffer from severe myopia, comparable to what was estimated with the eyes of SCP-401. The child has since been adopted by Agent
Information missing.
who has agreed to bring
Information missing.
Junior to a Foundation-approved doctor for monthly physical examinations. Experiment Log 4012. Date.
Content unavailable.
Subject. Male D-Class Personnel, D-2067. Procedure. D-2067 was ordered to donate genetic material, which was used to artificially inseminate SCP-401 at the beginning of its female phase. This insemination was allowed to gestate. Details. 12 hours after insemination, the uterine bulge in the wrist increased in size by 300%. While the other branches continued to develop normally for the next 2 weeks, the inseminated arm retained its uterine bulge and vaginal canal. 24 hours prior to the maturation of male organs, the uterine bulge began contracting until a mass of tissue was extracted from the palm. This was thrown over the edge of the courtyard by the arm which had given birth. The appendage was then shed and absorbed by the roots minutes later. After 5 hours of searching, personnel found the item which was thrown, which was determined to be a human urinary bladder with a fetus nestled inside, consistent with one that had been gestating for 2 months. The bladder was planted in soil. It then germinated 2 days later and became a seedling, equivalent to SCP-401 in structure. The organism died due to what was deemed to be malnutrition just 1 week later, despite being fed nutritional supplement 401-NS3. Experiment Log 4013. Date.
Redacted.
Subject. Female Class D Personnel, D-2081. Procedure. An egg was removed from D-2081's ovary, fertilized with genetic material harvested from SCP-401, and frozen until the following spring. The fertilized egg was implanted into SCP-401 and allowed to gestate. Details.
Information missing.
Nutritional supplement 401 NS4 has been formulated with this development in mind. Incident Alert 4011. On the date of
Content unavailable.
several of SCP-401's branches went into convulsions and then went limp. It was soon discovered that one of its hearts suffered from cardiac arrest and was not able to recover. An angiogram of the other hearts showed large amounts of plaque buildup. Since Incident 4011, the damaged heart has been absorbed and 2 new hearts have grown in its place. Nutritional supplement 401 NS4 is now to be used following the results of Experiment 4013. Containment Procedures. SCP-401 is to be kept in an enclosed courtyard at Site.
Content unavailable.
A mural of the landscape of southern France is painted on the walls of the courtyard. Once daily, personnel are to locate at least 10 roots which will be fed a total of 15 liters of nutritional supplement 401 NS4 and to also remove any solid waste produced. An EKG is to consistently monitor SCP-401 for any anomalies. Female personnel are not to enter the courtyard at any time between March 15th and April 1st, under any circumstances. Well everyone, there we have it. This is our first installment in discussing the wild world of SCPs. If you have any particular SCPs that you enjoy or you find fascinating, let us know in the comments, and we may feature them in the next episode. Be safe out there. It's a wild, weird world, and the true fabric of reality seems to be getting thinner and thinner. Until next time, take care of yourselves, be good to one another, and as always, have sweet dreams.